If you think you saw something, no you didn't. Part 1. The rule we live by. Being a forest ranger is usually a peaceful job. You spend your days patrolling trails, checking on campsites, and occasionally helping lost hikers find their way back. But there's one rule we all follow, a rule passed down from those who've been here longer than any of us. If you think you saw something, no you didn't. I never questioned it when I started. It felt like an inside joke, something the older rangers told the rookies to mess with them. I laughed it off, ignored the nervous glances exchanged between my colleagues whenever the rule came up. But I learned. I learned fast. It happened in my second month. By then, I'd memorized the main trails, the locations of the emergency supply caches, even the best spots to sit and watch the sunset. I was confident, too confident. One evening, I was assigned to check on the furthest station, a small, one-room cabin used for overnight stays when rangers had to patrol deep into the woods. It was isolated about 5 miles from the main ranger post, and I'd be alone for the night. It didn't bother me, at least not at first. Part 2, the first sign. The walk was uneventful. A crisp autumn wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. I enjoyed the solitude, the way the forest swallowed the sounds of civilization. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Then, something changed. The air grew thick, heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. The silence was sudden, unnatural. No rustling leaves, no distant hoots of owls. Even the wind had stilled. I stopped walking, my fingers tightening around the strap of my pack. I wasn't alone. A shadow moved between the trees to my left. A figure too tall, too thin, with movements that weren't quite human. I told myself it was a trick of the light, that my tired eyes were playing games with me. But when I glanced back, it was still there, watching. I should have kept walking. I should have remembered the rule. Instead, I turned, and that was my mistake. Part 3, the footsteps. The figure disappeared the moment I faced it, just vanished, like it had never been there. I forced a chuckle, shaking my head at my own paranoia. Probably just a deer, I told myself. Maybe an owl shifting on a branch. But then I heard it. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate, echoing mine perfectly. Every time I stepped forward, another footstep followed. When I stopped, so did it. I turned again. Nothing. A chill ran down my spine. I picked up my pace, heart hammering in my chest. The station was just ahead. If I could make it there, lock the door, I'd be fine. I didn't look back. Didn't breathe until I reached the cabin, slammed the door shut, and locked every bolt. Only then did I let out a shaking breath, try and convince myself I was being foolish. But I knew better. I should have never turned around. Part 4, the camera footage. Inside, the station felt safe. Sturdy wooden walls, a small fireplace, a cot in the corner, an old desk with a worn-out chair, and most importantly, the security monitors. We had trail cams set up along the paths, meant to capture footage of wildlife. Some were motion activated. Others recorded continuously. I turned on the monitors. At first, everything looked normal. A raccoon scurried across one screen. A fox sniffed at the base of the tree. The usual. Then I saw it, the figure, standing just outside the glow of the station's floodlights. Too tall, too thin. Its eyes reflected the infrared light of the camera, glowing unnaturally bright. I leaned closer, breath shallow. The figure stepped forward, and then, as if it knew I was watching, its head snapped toward the camera. My stomach dropped. It was looking directly at me. Part 5, the flare gun. I scrambled away from the desk, heart pounding. My training kicked in. I needed to follow protocol. Emergency situations required a distress signal. There was a flare gun hidden behind an old picture frame above the fireplace. I grabbed it, my hand shaking. The rule echoed in my mind. If you think you saw something, no you didn't. I stepped toward the back door, aiming at the night sky. The first shot went up, a bright red streak against the blackness. I loaded the second shot. Fired. The third flare never made it. A deafening thud rattled the roof. It was on top of the cabin. Part 6, The Whispering. My breath hitched. The creature, whatever it was, had moved too fast. One moment it was on the camera, the next above me, then came the whispering. Low, guttural. Words I couldn't understand. They slithered through the walls, seeping into my skull like tendrils of smoke. I pressed my hands over my ears, squeezed my eyes shut. I wasn't supposed to see it. I wasn't supposed to hear it. The door handle rattled. Then, gunshots. 3 loud cracks split the air, followed by the screech of tires. The whispering stopped. The weight on the roof vanished. And then, silence. I stumbled to the front door, unlocking it with trembling fingers. A group of rangers stood outside, their rifles raised. One of them, an older man with a graying beard, lowered his weapon and met my eyes. "You saw it, didn't you?" he asked. I couldn't speak, just nodded. The man sighed, placing a firm hand on my shoulder. "Remember the rule," he murmured. "If you think you saw something, no you didn't." Epilogue. The truth we ignored. They never explained what it was. Never told me what I had seen, what had almost gotten inside the station. The next morning, I checked the cameras again. Every recording from last night was gone. The footage erased. The only proof was a destroyed tree where I'd seen it standing. A tree that had been there for decades, now snapped in half like a twig. I asked one of the senior rangers about it. He just shook his head. "There are things in these woods that aren't meant to be understood," he said. "The best way to survive is to pretend they aren't real." I never saw the creature again, but some nights when the forest falls too quiet, when the wind doesn't blow and the trees don't move, I feel it, watching, waiting, and I follow the rule. Because if you think you saw something, no, you didn't.